In August 2016, a certain Mr. K posted a lengthy interview on YouTube. During the interview, Mr. K, a military contractor, claimed to have witnessed the brutal slaughter of a giant killer known as the Kandahar Giant. The alleged encounter is said to have occurred during Operation Enduring Freedom in 2002, despite the fact that it wasn't revealed until the 2016 interview. According to Mr. K, in 2002, a patrol of soldiers in the southern Afghan province of Kandahar's remote mountain region went missing. The military sent a special operations unit to investigate after some time passed with no radio contact from them, though it was never made clear which branch of the armed forces they belonged to. They located discarded pieces of equipment, much of it broken while searching along the patrol's known route. The wreckage took the group on a difficult trail that ended at a sizable cave deep inside the mountains. The area was littered with shattered objects and fractured bones. It was filled with military equipment, but there was no sign of the missing soldiers, and it was at that point that they came across the Kandahar Giant. The Kandahar Giant was 13 feet tall and had 6 fingers on each hand, and 2 sets of teeth in addition to his fiery red hair. The soldiers then initiated contact and started firing, and after 30 seconds of non-stop fire, the giant was killed. Before his death, the giant used a spear to kill one of the special ops soldiers. After the giant was killed by the operators, they radioed it in. The US military removed its corpse, loaded it onto a Chinook, transported it back to the FOB, and then transferred the body onto a transport plane where it was never seen again. To ensure that they all remained silent, the government forced the soldiers to sign non-disclosure agreements. But it's not the only giant sighting that military personnel allegedly saw during the war in Afghanistan. A massive being about 10 to 12 feet tall was reportedly spotted in the mountains by an infantry team leader during his deployment. In another case, an unarmed Air Force drone operator operating in the northern region of Afghanistan observed giants tending their fires and performing other tasks. In the Uruzgan province of Afghanistan, an Australian Army officer on sentry duty recalled seeing a giant taking a leisurely stroll around a nearby compound. These stories gained a lot of attention, especially the Kandahar Giant. Tons of websites containing theories about giants in Afghanistan have been created. Is it really possible that the story is true and the government covered up the incident? Or are all these just a myth? The past 2 centuries have reportedly seen the discovery of dozens of giant skeletons. Images of people standing next to or holding a huge human femur can be found on several websites. Particularly in the 19th century, these claims were universally believed as evidence for the existence of giants, even with no scientific claims. Although some argue that the government and organisations like the Smithsonian ignored, destroyed or concealed the evidence. The word giant first appeared in Greek mythology. They were enormous beings that battled the gods, and the original word for them was gigantes. According to mythology, the giants who were actually almost never born were the offspring of Uranus and Gaia, or the sky and the earth. Uranus forbade the birth of the giants, imprisoning them in Gaia's womb out of fear that they would be too powerful. Uncomfortable, Gaia persuaded her elder son Kronos to attack Uranus. He did so, and the giants were freed from their prison by the blood that was spilled on Gaia. After taking power, Zeus quickly brought down Kronos. The defeat of their protector and brother infuriated the giants, who then engaged Zeus and other Greek gods in a battle known as the Gigantomachy, using boulders and trees as missiles. However, the giants were defeated and buried beneath mountains, where it was said that their agonized tremblings were responsible for earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. The giants in Greek mythology were described as living, breathing, mortal beings whose bones could still be found emerging from the earth where they had been buried in ancient times. In fact, large, surprisingly human-like bones have still been discovered in Greece. But these bones, according to modern scientists, are those of extinct mammals from the area, including woolly rhinoceroses, mastodons, and mammoths. However, these enormous animals were largely unknown to the ancient Greeks, and many of them thought the enormous bones they discovered were the remains of giants. In the Bible, giants were mentioned several times. You already know the story of David and Goliath. The biblical figure Goliath is described as a Philistine giant beheaded by the young David in a single combat in the book of Samuel. The Bible mentions several giant people groups as well as numerous individuals who are described as giants. The height of these people has been estimated by interpreters to be anywhere between 6 feet and more than 30 feet. The biblical giants are called the Nephilim. The Old Testament describes the Nephilim as mighty men who are enormously big and physically powerful. Scholars and commentators translate the word Nephilim as giants or fallen ones. They are the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of man. The giants were first described in the book of Genesis, indicating that they have been around since the beginning of time. Genesis 6:4. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. The same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. There were several giant groups mentioned in the Bible. First, there are the Anakim, who are descendants of the Nephilim. Second, the tall people known as Emim lived in Transjordan, a region to the east of the Jordan River. Third, the Amorites, another tribe that obstructed Israel's claim to the Promised Land, are mentioned as being extraordinarily tall. And thirdly, there's the Rephaim, who are mentioned almost 20 times and are strongly associated with the conquest of the Promised Land. Massive human skeleton fossils have been discovered all over the world, and this may give proof to the Bible giants. For example, the most significant source of evidence for giants found was in Crete. Arcadia was the previous name for Crete, and Arcadia was referred to as Gigantus, or the land of giants in the past, due to the giants that once resided there. The biggest bones ever discovered were actually found on this island, which may prove that it really was the land of giants. A huge giant skeleton was found on the island during the Cretan War, which lasted from 205 to 200 BC. This giant was 33 cubits long, or roughly 42 feet, according to the measurement. The Greek author Phlegon of Tralles, who lived during the reign of the Roman Empire Hadrian and the Roman Lucius Flassus, were both notable eyewitnesses to the enormous bones. The 36-foot skeleton discovered by the Carthaginians is depicted in the accompanying chart of giant fossilized remains discovered in various parts of the world. The tools that these enormous people used provide additional proof, in addition to eyewitness accounts and bones that have been discovered. Tools such as the enormous double-headed axes discovered in Crete. These axes, which date back as far as 1700 years before Jesus, served as the primary religious symbols of the ancient Cretans. The discovery of animals with body sizes far greater than those seen today raises the possibility that there may have once existed giant humans, as described in the Bible. All over the world, there are numerous accounts of archaeologists discovering incredibly large bones, weapons, or other artifacts that could only have been used by a giant. Just look at Stonehenge. According to legend, Merlin was assisted in the construction of Stonehenge by a race of giants. Some people think that it's one of the few possible explanations for how something as huge as Stonehenge can be built. However, as unbelievable as it may appear, a medieval text depicts a giant assisting Merlin in the construction of Stonehenge. The manuscript is a 14th century manuscript edition of Roman de Brute, literary history written in verse by the poet Wace in the 12th century. In Wace's version of the legend, which he adapted from Geoffrey of Monmouth's Historia Regum Britanniae, King Aurelius, son of Constantine, decides to build a monument to the British nobility who was killed by the Saxons after defeating the usurpers Vortigern and Hengist. Merlin proposes building Ireland's Ring of Killeros stone circle with enormous stones brought there by a giant from Africa. The king objects to this idea, saying that the stones are too heavy to be transported such a distance, to which Merlin responds, "Wit is more than strength." Uther leads an army of men, defeating the Irish on the way, in bringing the stones back to the Salisbury Plain with the aid of Merlin's magic. The picture shown in the manuscript either depicts a giant helping Merlin in the construction of Stonehenge, or helping in the removal of the stones from the giant's ring to be transported to England. The theories behind how Stonehenge was made provide fascinating stories that are up to you if you want to believe them. In nearly every part of the world, there are artifacts for the existence of giants, or at least artifacts of people who are more than the average size. In 2012, the first complete ancient skeleton of a person with gigantism was found in Rome. In the 3rd century AD, when men were typically 167 centimeters, or about 5.5 feet tall, the man would have been a giant at 6 feet 8 inches, or 202 centimeters tall. The Roman specimen is the first definitive gigantism case from ancient times. though two partial skeletons, one from Poland and the other from Egypt, have been previously identified as probable cases of gigantism. Finding such skeletons is rare because gigantism, which affects about 3 people per million worldwide today, is also relatively rare. Because of abnormal growth brought on by a pituitary gland malfunction, the condition first manifests in childhood. In Sardinia, theories have been made as archaeologists discovered the tombs of the giants. The tombs consist of a 2 to 3 metre tall by 20 to 30 metre long burial chamber. A kind of semicircle of vertical stones buried in the ground serves to define the front portion. In the middle, a taller monument is frequently erected. In some cases, it can be up to 4 metres tall. According to popular belief, they were graves for giant-sized men who once lived on the island. Others may have linked the graves to the tombstones of the fabled city of Atlantis, while others claim that enormous bones have been discovered inside the graves. Do these tombs actually reveal the presence of giants in Sardinia? Archaeologists argue that only the tombs are gigantic. The people buried there were normal-sized people. Another discovery fueling theories about giants was the discovery of an underground city full of giant skeletons in the Grand Canyon. An enormous underground citadel in the Grand Canyon was discovered by an archaeologist who was rafting on the Colorado River. According to their descriptions, the entrance to this mysterious city was located at the end of a tunnel that went approximately 1,600 meters below ground. Mummified bodies were discovered in the citadel. None of the discovered mummies were shorter than 2.74 meters, and they were all covered in dark linen. Unfortunately, there aren't many details available about this discovery, and the Smithsonian Institute denies knowing about this underground city's existence. But out of all these, there is one giant with the most concrete evidence that lived through modern times. It's the man from Illinois, who is the tallest person in the world according to the Guinness Book of World Records. The tallest man in history was Robert Pershing Wadlow, also referred to as the Alton Giant and the Giant of Illinois. Wadlow was 8 foot 11 inches tall and 439 pounds in weight. His pituitary gland hypertrophy, which results in an abnormally high level of human growth hormone, was the cause of his enormous size and his continued growth into adulthood. He died on July 15, 1940 at the age of 22. According to reports, Wadlow had poor foot sensation and passed away due to an infected blister. Other people who are abnormally tall may also experience problems that are either caused by their height or by the condition that caused them to grow so tall. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and watching today. My name is James and this is the restricted section. We upload 3 times per week. If you enjoy stories like this one, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future uploads. If there's any topics you'd like to see in future videos, please let me know in the comments section down below. Thanks again and see you on the next one.